Hello, everyone. You've been following my blog lately. My name is Al. I'm here in the south of Brazil, sitting in a coffee shop that was started by an American expatriate like myself. Becoming an expatriate and a digital nomad is now an American tradition. If you have a way to make a living online, you can travel the world. All you need is your cell phone to work. Every day, your office will be in some one colorful place or another. You've seen what I've been filming, and we have a lot more to come. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Keith Preston, an academic writer who has been with me at Academic Composition since 2014. Keith, tell us a little bit about your travel experiences. Where have you been lately?
Yeah, well, in more recent times, I was traveling in Europe. I went to the Netherlands. I went to Portugal. I've been to a number of European countries. I've been to England, Germany, France, Spain, the Czech Republic, Belgium, some others. I've also traveled in Latin America, mostly in Mexico. I've been to Canada, and I've been all over the United States as well. Um, so one thing about being in academic composition is that I'm able to do that. I'm able to work remotely and therefore be literally a mobile worker in the sense that I'm able to do my work wherever I am. And that's obviously very convenient. Uh, whenever for example, in our line of work, sometimes I'll be sitting in an airport working on a project for one of our clients, or I may be in my hotel, or I may be sitting in Dam Square in Amsterdam, or I may be out in front of the pool at the hotel in Portugal, or whatever, or wherever I am at the time. I've even done work on a laptop while I'm sitting on the tarmac on a plane waiting to take off. So being a remote worker gives me the opportunity to do all these kinds of things, and that's one of the advantages of being in our business, is being able to travel and being able to have your own schedule. I don't have to um, be at an office at any particular time. Instead, I'm able to. I mean, obviously, I have to do work. I have to get the required volume of work done. I have to make sure clients are happy. But at the same time, I can work at midnight if I want to. I can work at 6 a.m. if I want to. I can work any time of day. I can work while I'm doing the laundry, or I can work while I'm riding on the bus or riding in the back of an Uber. And that's really a good option to have.
And there is also a downside that if you are wired to your phone and to your computer, clients will call you at random times. You'll get an email from me about some crisis. And do you ever miss the 9 to 5 routine when you just clock out and you're done? I mean, or is this really nothing to write home about?
Yeah, well, I much prefer the way I do it now. I can't say I really miss the 9 to 5 routine at all. And I never really had that many 9 to 5 jobs. For many years, I worked in restaurant management, and convenience store management, and things like that. And those kinds of jobs often were in the evening, sometimes overnight. I did have some office jobs for a while in the uh, mid to late 2000s, early 2010s. But no, I can't say that I really miss office work at all. It's really
See,
something.
you have more control this way. It may be overwhelming at times to be swimming in emails, but it's still better because we can take charge of our destiny.
Well, as I was saying earlier, our kind of work we can do at any time. Like if we have a flood of emails, okay, we can just stay up past until 2 a.m. answering emails if we need to. But then we can sleep later the next day. It's so there, that flexibility allows us to be more productive in the long run because we're not constrained by things like scheduling in the way that many people are.
Yeah, yeah, that's a wonderful thing. So you've traveled mostly all over Europe. I've lived in Spain for a year and a half now. I'm in the southern cone. So out of all the places where you've been as a digital nomad, and where have you liked the most? Where do you look forward to going back to?
Well, there's different things that are good about different places. When I've been to Acapulco a number of times in southern Mexico. It's on the Pacific coast, and
Hmm.
each time that I went, it was in the middle of winter here in the United States. So I was able to take a break from the winters and go and experience summer climate in Mexico. Uh, the Netherlands is a nice place to go, or Northern Europe generally, or Canada. Those are nice places to go during the summer because they tend to be cooler. They're not nearly as hot as the Mid Atlantic region of the United States where I live. And culturally speaking, there's a lot of different things that different societies have to offer, different countries. Whether you like art or architecture or music or scenery or whatever. I was recently in Portugal a few months ago, and I really liked Portugal. Not only was I in a beachfront city which is a very nice international city, but also the culture there tends to be a lot more laid back. For example, it's not like the United States where we have this somewhat toxic political culture and everybody's always back arguing back and forth about
Hmm.
all kinds of issues, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris and, whatever. There, I found people that of different opinions and different belief systems and different political affiliations were better able to communicate and get along in a way that I don't see in the United States. I found that very refreshing as well.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot. I've left the U.S. In 2019, in March of 2019. I lived in Denver at the time. There was a blizzard, and I went to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Now, Mexico has its own political problems. The people are not at each other's throats. You can talk about politics without being called names of all sorts. And I'm noticing that, that maybe things are getting better in the U.S. too. We've been talking about how now there is a demand for positive thinking in politics. The moderate candidates are in higher demand than extremists. Is that there to stay, or do you think American politics will always be extremely divisive?
Well, right now is an interesting time because there are things that are driving the divisiveness, but I think a lot of people are tired of all that. I have noticed in more recent times that a positive message seems to sell better. I know the Democrats in this election have really been able to turn it around for themselves by having a candidate who puts out a more positive sounding message than her opponent. I think that she's doing a lot better in the polls than President Biden was when he was still in the race. That does seem to be something that's attractive to a whole lot of people, and that's understandable because people don't like to be surrounded by negativity 24/7.
Yeah,
I think
you know what? Huh? Yeah, I was saying, you know what I noticed in 2020 when I lived in Spain, there has been a noticeable uptick in remote work. More people expatriated from the U.S. Not only because they got online jobs, because they were just so tired of the negative and toxic politics. And I think that trend is continuing. I'm seeing that despite the upswing that we're seeing in positivity in America, more and more Americans are expatriating. I think that's probably going to continue no matter what. No matter who wins the election, we're going to be seeing more and more Americans living abroad. Like, look at what's going on in Mexico City. The rent prices are insane because there's just too many Americans living there. It's becoming another California. We see this in Puerto Vallarta, Cancun. But thankfully, I'm really far south where rent prices are affordable. Do you see that changing at any point? Will Americans begin repatriating if our politics become less toxic? Is that even possible?
Well, I think a lot of Americans are expatriating because the cost of living keeps going up in the United States, and housing and fuel cost and grocery cost and education cost and healthcare cost of all these things keep going up. And people are looking to go to places where they can get what they need cheaper. And the great thing about being an expatriate is that there's quite a few places to go. You mentioned, for instance, that rent prices are going up in Mexico City now because of the number of expatriates there. But that means expatriates will start going somewhere else. They'll start going to Colombia. They'll start going to Costa Rica. They'll start going to Brazil. They'll start going to Chile, or they'll start going to Pacific countries like the Philippines or Indonesia, or they'll start going to Eastern Europe, to Hungary or Romania, somewhere like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
You
So
know
there's a lot of
what? Yeah,
options.
go on. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of options. There's a lot of options. I mean, the world is not infinite, but there's a whole lot more places to go now than there once were before the idea of working remotely became possible.
I was about to say that, and I've been an expat for 5 years now, and I've noticed that I began falling into a lot of tourist traps. For example, when I went to Mexico, I went to Puerto Vallarta, and there you don't even need to bother learning Spanish. And I just got so tired of paying gringo prices. And by the way, gringo is a term that comes from the Mexican-American War, where American invaders wore a green uniform, and Mexicans had that saying, "Green, go home." So that's where the gringo comes from, and that kind of an attitude is still really prevalent. So what I learned to do is to not go into the tourist trap places like Vallarta or Cancun. Go to a smaller city and learn Spanish. Here, for example, I'm in Brazil, and I'm in Santa Catarina. I'm far south. I'm not in Rio. I'm not in São Paulo. For when, and I can have an affordable standard of living. Jesus, too much coffee. If I were in Europe, I would not go to Malaga again because there's just too many expats there. Definitely would not go to Barcelona. I'd go to Granada, like an hour north. If I wanted to live in Catalonia, I don't know. I'd go somewhere north of Barcelona or interior. If in fact, other expats make fun of me when I would jokingly suggest Slovakia to them. Now, Slovakia is a nice country. And then they think, well, what's the point of this? Why don't you just go to the Czech Republic or Germany? Well, no, that's the idea. If you want to live economically and if you want to integrate into any foreign culture, you got to get out of this expat bubble. Being an expat means getting out of your comfort zone. So go to these places that are just not so well known.
Yeah, and that's really what you have to do if you want to get the best bargain you can in terms of the prices you're going to be paying for things. If you go to a place that's popular for expats on a general level, that by itself is going to have the effect of raising the prices because if there's a lot of expats there, then local businesses and merchants and all of that, they're going to real estate developers and all that, they're going to understand that and they're going to start raising the prices. And of course, there are some countries where the prices are just as expensive as they are in the United States. If you go to some of the Western European countries, it's like that. But
Amsterdam.
Yeah, I was in Amsterdam for a while. That's like living in a big American city. That's like living in Washington D.C. or New York City or somewhere like that. It's so yeah, and Germany is fairly expensive. But if you go to Southern Europe, it tends to be a little cheaper, like southern Spain on the coast, or Portugal's a little cheaper, depending on where you go. Maybe Italy, definitely some of the Eastern European countries, many Latin American countries. There are many places in Latin America that are quite cheap. Some Asian countries, I know people been expatriates to India, even. Like I knew some fellows that wanted to start a business, an online business, and they didn't have enough money to both start their business and pay their bills here in the United States at the same time. So they said, well, look, we know what to do. We'll just go somewhere where the living is extremely cheap and we can put all our money into starting the business. So they did that. They moved to India and they were living in India, paying Indian prices for things, living extremely cheaply. And that gave them investment capital to start their business. Now their online business is very expensive. I mean, very successful. So that those kinds of options now are available because of the internet, because of computer technology, because of iPhones and laptops, and because of international credit cards and international banking and all these kinds of things that we can make use of today that we didn't have in past times.
I think that's the biggest lesson. You got to go kick fear in the teeth. You've got to stop thinking, oh, I can't do it. I can't learn the language. What if my credit card doesn't work? What if nobody likes me there? How am I going to be far away from my family? You got to stop thinking that way. And once you become an expat, you don't want to go back. The traditional way of life is just not going to be for you anymore.
Yeah, and most people that I have known who were expats to other countries outside the United States, from the United States, have generally found it to be a positive experience and very few of them have come back. Like
Yeah, and
I've known very,
one,
I've known very few expats from the United States who said, I just couldn't wait to get back to the United States. Being an expat was terrible. I've never come across that. Very rarely. I mean, there are some people who've gone to places they didn't like and went somewhere else, but for the most part, there's a super majority consensus among expats that being an expat is a pretty good life.
yeah, of all this time I've traveled, and I've been in 7 countries where I've lived, I've never once heard an American expat tell me, "Gosh, I miss America. God, I really want to go back." Because it feels like they have a professional relationship with America. It's a place to work, but it's just not such a nice place to live, especially not lately. Now, if you can make money online and have an online business in America, a remote job, you can effectively become rich in another country. And if you know how to look around, you'll have it all. Okay, guys. So Keith, thanks so much. Guys, follow our channel for more for our talks on how to learn a foreign language, how to expatriate, how to find a nice place to live, cultural differences, and so much more. Take care. Until later.